Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I have found a way to keep the lights St. Patrick's Day decor. Yes, I keep the vibe of an elementary school classroom in here. I found the cutest little like tinsel garland that I put on top of my other garland, and I feel like it's not gonna show a lot from this distance, but it has little rainbows and pots of gold and it's just precious. I just like a little something going on back there. I got my gold E right over here. So yeah, it's hanging on just a little bit longer. I was just not quite ready to hop into springtime and Easter just yet. But for today's video, we're just gonna chat. We're gonna talk about some smaller sized quads, trios, smaller eye palettes that I'm wanting to rediscover. I feel like I've already for the past couple of weeks really been gravitating toward that part of my collection. When I get to the point of doing eyes, I'm like looking in these little drawers I have here where I have actually really nicely organized my smaller products like that. Sometimes I do feel like using a great big old palette and just having tons of options, but other times the simplicity really appeals to me, and I guess I'm just in that phase for a while now. So I'm going to chat about some of the specific ones that I want to be using more, and I even have a little demo on the look that I'm wearing today. And also, first off, I'll let you know what's happening on my whole face of the day. I've got a lot of Laura Geller baked makeup. I've also been in a big baked makeup phase. But I was sent a couple shades of this new Too Faced Born This Way Super Glow. It's the multi-use complexion enhancer. This is the shade Polished Petal. It might appear that it's a little more skin tone like, but to me it just feels like a very gently rosy highlighter, basically like liquid highlight. A little less potent though, pigmentation wise, than a liquid highlight. So you can kind of dot it all over the face, use it the way you would use a Hollywood Flawless Filter type of product, but I don't feel like, at least from what I can tell here, it doesn't seem like this line is so much based in a bunch of different skin tones, but more so like tones of the shimmer, okay, if that makes sense. So I've got that on as like my primer, I guess, and then I did concealer. I used my little Tarte Shape Tape Blur. Really love this stick concealer. It's a beautiful texture. It actually reminds me a lot of my CoverGirl CG smoothers. It's very smooth and creamy, and I just put that on all my usual concealer zones, and then I set it. Today my under eye setting powder I used is the L'Oreal Infallible Blurfection in the soft pink shade, or the light pink. And then we get into all the baked stuff. So now that I had my coverage targeted in certain areas, I use the Baked Balance and Brighten. So I have this in the shade Light, and I used this with that little retractable brush just all over to give me that all over coverage. This really does have nice coverage. Like I always talk about the double take as, wow, that's really good coverage, but this is not too far off from that, really. But that's all over my skin. It gives a nice natural finish, medium coverage. And then I reached for a Baked Bronze and Brighten that I really rarely use. I just kind of cast it aside because I feel like that's not going to do anything. Actually, it does quite a bit. All the bronziness on my skin, the slight bit of contour is coming from Roman Holiday. That's this shade. I guess I just kind of underestimated the pigmentation involved in the deeper part of the swirl tones, you know? My eye immediately gets caught by the lightness and I'm just thinking, what is this anyway? But the deeper tones really do something for me. So I've got that on. My blush today is the Blush and Brighten in Pink Grapefruit, which this is one, I don't remember how it broke. There's a big hunk of product gone here, but as you guys know, baked stuff lasts a long time. This has a lot of life left in it. I was not gonna get rid of it. So I've got that on as my blush. I don't think I even used a highlight today, but I did take a little bit of the Baked Blurring and Setting Powder and gently use that all over. Actually, all my Laura Geller stuff I have in a little tray, like a little baked station. It perfectly holds 2 rows of compacts. Any of her powder foundations, bronzers, blushes, highlight, I've got them all like just nicely sitting there. And then my eyes are one of the little duos that I'm gonna be talking about in a second. This is Beach Plum from Clinique. I will take you through how I use that in this video. And my lip combo today is CoverGirl Outlast. It's one of those little markers. I'm trying to use those more. The shade is Natural Blush, and it comes off kind of mauve-y as it draws on, but look at that, it's like a legit little marker tip. And I do like how you can sort of lay it on its side as well and get a thicker amount of color. That's all over, and then I use this Profusion Juicy Lips Nourishing Lip Oil as the shine. This has some outrageous shine, like I really enjoy that. Shade is Radiant Rose. So let's get started talking about these quads, trios, duos, compact palettes. They're small, but they can give you still a really complete look. Like, let's start with this Clinique Beach Plum, because this is just a little duo. I'm loving my Clinique duos. My favorite one, if you're wondering, like, what is just a all-time great, I love the one called Day Into Date. This one has a really beautiful, kind of unique rosy brown, and then this soft shade just blends into the look so nicely. Always love Day Into Date. Always love Strawberry Fudge. That shade gives off like kind of a pinky golden shift, and then this shade is just a perfect depth level for like a subtle type of look. I've got several here. Those are probably my top couple. But then I'm looking around yesterday and I'm thinking, what about Beach Plum? You know, this is a small pan of a purpley shimmer, and then you have a soft gold. The shimmer in these is all in all soft, but the pigment is high. I would say they both offer more of a pearly look on the skin as opposed to a real stark metallic. So how do you go about using that? I thought this might be the most mysterious, so this is the one I have the little tutorial on, and I will throw it in once I get done mentioning all the other picks, but it's actually super easy to work with because of the soft shimmer. When you're working with a shade like that and you do want to work it up into the crease or use it in a little different way, it's going to blend into skin with maybe a little more ease than a matte would. So you're taking a little off the beaten path color here with the purple, and you're putting it in a finish that lends itself to kind of fizzling out and blending into your skin in a more user-friendly fashion. So you're going to see that come together in the look. We start with the crease, we pat it on the lid, and we meet that shade with this beautiful soft gold. It's a great companion color. If you're an LSU fan, if you've got purple and gold in your school colors, what a great way to softly incorporate that. But that's one that I want to use a little bit more because I do end up loving the finished look there. It's not always one when I see it in my collection that grabs me and makes me think, oh, this is a fave, but it's definitely something that deserves more use. Oh, here's another little one that I grabbed. This little trio from Natasha Denona. It's the I Need a Nude palette. Look how tiny. It's just a trio, okay? Look at these. You can see these and just know those are going to be easy to work with, right? Can't you see starting with that one in your crease, and then maybe you're working a little bit of this one in for some depth, and then you want to shine and glow with the third one. I mean, isn't there just some comfort in being able to glance at an eye product and just think, I can immediately tell at a glance how I'm going to use that. This is what that offers. It's going to be a real natural everyday look, but I like the thought that you can swipe on that little bit of glimmer. And it's cute and it's good quality, and I'm just kind of calling myself out for not dipping into this more. If you see the larger Natasha Denona palettes and you're kind of like, what's going on here? Here's the beginner-friendly one. They're so little. Staying really compact. The little e.l.f. quad in Acai U. I'm into the navy here. Really primarily caught by the navies, these two deep ones, and the thought of working in a little bit of the periwinkle. Don't get too thrown by the thought of like, oh, I'm using blue eyeshadow today, but lean into the thought of rich navy and how pretty that can look. It can look awesome on brown eyes. So I'm seeing like this being an outer corner shade, or maybe even kind of a liner shade. This one, I'm seeing that having a big role in it too. There's a little more color punch coming off of that shimmer. But then what about you over here, the little periwinkle friend? Like some amount of this quad is definitely going to work into a future look for me, because I think every time I use a navy, I come away thinking I need to use navy more. How often are you using navy eyeshadow? Oh, we got a dense fog advisory. Who out there is kind of not ready for winter to be over? Okay, they do still have it on e.l.f.'s website, gang. She's still there. On the topic of quads, I used this one recently, maybe it's a couple weekends ago. This one from Pretty Smart, that little brand in Walmart that is from the makers of the balm. This is the Celebrity Artist eyeshadow palette. The shades are Peri Twinkle, My Shadow, Whirlwind, and Blender. So I guess they just name the individual shades. They don't give the whole quad a name. But can you say user-friendly here? Like, look at these 3 mattes, a soft shimmer. These are good quality, my friends. Like, I mean, no issues whatsoever using this. And I just came away thinking, why are we not reaching for it more often? Everything blended well. The tones and the plumminess working in was so satisfying for me. And you've got a couple of really easy midtones here too. It's an excellent drugstore shadow quad. This would be one where I would be like, when in doubt for which direction to go in for my look, you could easily go here and be happy. I have several of these little M Cosmetics palettes, mini palettes. They're 6 shades. So the most options in a little palette that I've shown so far, but they're beautiful. And I was looking at this one called Venetian Rose and I'm thinking, why? Like, why are you not using this more? Look at the richness. It's half matte, half shimmer. These pieces of the pie are matte. I love how it makes me think of Trivial Pursuit as soon as I open it up. Then like, look at these shimmers. They're just glowing. Can you see how those are popping off? The contrast is going to be great here, I think, even though these shades don't look incredibly dark. Those mattes are super duper smooth. You don't even feel like you're picking up that much shadow on your finger, but you're getting full pigment. Not the least bit of dryness in those mattes though. And you got a little mirror inside. I think that's going to be great when I'm in the mood for a rosy look. Oh my gosh, I love this one. This little palette from Profusion. So we often think about Profusion for their larger palettes or maybe those ones that are like 10 shades. This one here called Cozy, I've used it in a video before. So many of you guys really got into this one. Such soft, beautiful pigment going on here in these 4 totally matte basics. Like, just put your finger in and look at that. Buttery smooth, plenty of color going on, but then you've got this little spotlighting friend that feels a whole lot like a ColourPop Super Shock shadow and all the intensity you could hope for. You know what this makes me think of? It's kind of like the little, excuse me? What I was about to say was this is kind of like the budget-friendly friend to this one. Maybe the tones are slightly less rosy, but it still makes me think of a similar effect on the eyes where you're able to have a mid-tone, a little bit deeper shade, and then something that absolutely pops. In fact, this probably pops with even more intensity than Natasha Denona's does, but what a great little basic palette to have. Super neutral, not too warm. I had just slid this kind of in the side of a drawer because this is the only palette of this type that I own, and I'm like, I've got to use that more. If when I said not too warm, you thought, but I like warmth, I pulled out this one from Essence. Essence has these great little 6-pan palettes. So with a couple of these, we're expanding past the size of just a duo or a trio and giving a little bit more, but still has a very safe feel to it, doesn't it? This is the Coral Me Maybe one. I have a few of these. I have the bronze, the nude, and this one. But this one I kind of just thought like maybe dipping our toes into spring a little bit. Really pretty pigment on that. So I think you're going to get a coral punch that certainly shows here, but I like that we have a nice deep dark brown. We've got this kind of shimmery brown too. We could take it in a golden direction also. So I'm into this and I like the mid-tones you can set it up with. Little mirror included. These are a great deal, really, these little palettes from Essence. I hope they are still making them because I didn't specifically look when I was in Ulta last time. Well, geez, guys, I'm glad I checked. The little palettes from Essence, it's coming up on Target's website, but I'm a little concerned that I'm not seeing that on Ulta's anymore. So just a heads up if you were looking into getting that. They had a great thing going with these. And then the last thing I'm going to mention today is something that's like a small combo palette. In terms of the amount of eyeshadows, it's a trio, but it gives some supporting cast shades. And I had seen a video recently where someone was raving on this, and I thought, you know, I don't really reach for that hardly at all anymore. And it's this Milani palette. This is the all-inclusive palette for light to medium, and they do have a deeper one as well that I own, and it's good. But these face shades for me would be something just slightly easier that I can just quickly dip into. Glowy blush, regular blush, bronzer, highlight, but the shadows in here are really nice and smooth. I feel like could create a nice little everyday look, reminding me quite a bit also of the Natasha Denona Trio, but now you've got all these other face shades. This could create a very similar look with this shimmery shade being a little more rose gold, whereas that one's more of a champagne. But yeah, I know I'm not a super big fan of the tone in this bronzer, but even used lightly, like I can make it work. And I feel like I should get more use out of that. And now to cap off this little video, I want to take you to my quick tutorial using Beach Plum. Alrighty friends, so the duo I'm using today is this little Clinique one, and it is called Beach Plum, and it's got a little bit of a shimmery purple as well as like a soft gold. And I thought this would just be a good one to show going on because you just might wonder, like, how does an entire look come together with those two? So I'm going to start off with eye primer. primer. Today I think I'm going to use good old Milani. I have switched it up quite a bit lately with that e.l.f. Lock It Down primer. I like that one too, and it's done really well for me also for all day staying power, so it's good to have options. And I do like the wand applicator. Milani definitely feels just a little thicker as it crosses your skin, and I squeezed out a little too much. I'm going to begin with the purpley shade, and it's really kind of a not too light, not too dark type of shade. And I'm going to take my crease brush straight into that. Pick up a little, and then I'm going to take this to my crease. So this is going to be like the really soft application of this color. It's going to give us contrast. It's going to give us some depth, but we are applying it with this brush right now, and that is going to just naturally soften the color a little. See that? A little bit of just soft crease, and then it'll show more when we pack it on the lid. We can use the little sponge tip or a flat brush, and that will be just a whole other take on the color. But when you're applying it this way, you can sheer it out as much as you want. You can take it as high as you want, make it as visible as you want it to be in this part of the eye look. It's up to you. I love that shade shearing out. I'm gonna add more over here. There we go. See, pretty sheer purpley wash. Love that. Now you can use your little sponge tip if you want to and go into that purple and really pack it on like as much of the lid as you want it to take up. I'm going to use maybe a little over half of my lid with this shade. And look at that. So easy. Hi, Bisky. Dabbing it on. Look at the nice pigment. I love that like a duo such as this exists in the Clinique range. Beach Plum. Really pretty, and something about that makes me want to just blend a little more because I kind of did start to reach the crease with the color I was patting on. Shooting this on President's Day, and there is no school. Belle does have practice, but it should be a fun day. Picking up some of that. And this color is a really pretty, like, soft gold. Typically, when you see a gold, like, it just goes much more metallic. And this one has a certain, like, high pigment, yet softness to it in terms of the amount of shimmer. So it looks really pretty. This could be great for the LSU fans out there. Or when I was in elementary school, junior high, and high school for basketball, we were purple and gold. But look at that softness, and you've got a lot of that shade. See how pretty that is with the soft level of shimmer there? And we got one more way we can use this purple shade. I think it's a perfect depth level just to have a little bit coming on the lower lash line. It's not going to show as much color intensity as it does on the lid because we're just confining it to a little bit smaller space, but I think it's going to look good and define the eye well here. Friends, here's the finished eye look. I did use a little bit of eyeliner. This is my Profusion Seamless Strokes in the shade Dark Roast, and it's a really skinny eyeliner. I've sung the praises of this one before. It really hangs in there nicely to the upper lash line, goes on easily, but gives you that precise definition if you're not wanting a big, thick line, and it lasts really well too. So then as my mascara, I'm using the Maybelline Lash Sensational Body, not because I love it, but because I'm just kind of trying to work through it. I eventually get to an acceptable lash with this, but it takes me so many coats. And then I've got e.l.f. Lash Extender on the lower lashes. So yeah, friends, hopefully this video helps you out if you're wanting to get the wheels turning on rediscovering some products in your own collection. You know, you don't have to rush out and pick up everything I mentioned in this video, but it might just provide some ideas and some direction if you're looking through your own collection and trying to do a little late winter refresh, you know? Duos, quads, mini palettes, they're very approachable. And especially if you're kind of in a hurry in the morning, you can glance at it and know exactly what to do with it. And you know, guys, I was looking through my YouTube subscription feed and I just feel like I'm seeing all of the same videos all the time. It's people talking about new products. It's people saying which drugstore products are better than high-end, and it's just an endless loop of all the new stuff. And I do think new stuff is fun, and I talk about a lot of new stuff, but I really want to work in some videos that aren't just that. So continue to give me your video requests and I will try to work those in. So thanks, friends. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.